thank you all for coming. We're super grateful to have Kade and his wife here. We usually keep these pretty informal. We have the mics and the camera so we can record it, put it on our YouTube channel and our website after for those that aren't able to be here. But yeah, I'm super grateful to have Kade here. I've actually been friends with Kade. He was a grade older than me in high school, but we went to the same high school, so we not quite the same friend group, but friends through high school. And so I've known him for quite a while, but it was more recently that I've learned more about his businesses and what he's doing here. So rather than me reading you a bio, we'd like to just have our speakers introduce themselves. So Kade, if you just want to tell us a little bit about how you grew up, some of your background, and then we'll go from there.
So I grew up in Southern Nevada, small town, with Jeremy, but there's only limited opportunities in a small town. I knew I wasn't going to be one that grew up and stayed there, so went on a LDS mission, came home, and both my parents were educators. They were teachers, and it's kind of funny because I never really was sold at the idea of college unless I had like a direct plan, like I'm going to study, become a doctor, go study, become a lawyer. If I had a direct path, I was going to go to study. So I decided I did want to go study and become a pilot. I enrolled in a UVU, realized that wasn't the lifestyle I wanted once I graduated, to be away from my family, flying all over. So dropped out of college, went into sales, and then at the soonest opportunity I could, then I got into entrepreneurship.
Sweet. So, what kind of sales did you do? Can you speak to that experience a little bit, like the type of sales, how long you did it, and maybe some things that you learned from it that were beneficial to you?
The first kind of sales I got in, I worked like a retail job after my mission, but immediately went into clothing sales, actually men's suits. I was like business to business, selling suits to professionals, lawyers, doctors, athletes, and from there I went into door to door, selling pest control for different summers, and did that for 3 continuous summers and stockpile savings and got out of it as soon as I could.
You loved it, right? Every minute of the door-to-door sales.
No, I enjoyed it. I like the skills, the personable skills, and what you learn from it is actually something that I think everyone should experience. So, yeah. Yeah.
What would you say were some of like the most valuable skills when it comes to like now hindsight, and you're an entrepreneur, you own your own businesses, but what skills did you learn from doing door-to-door sales that have helped you run your businesses now?
Specifically customer service, like just problem solving. Like in a business, you're always going to have a customer that's upset about something, and to be able to de-escalate that and have it end as a positive experience is something that has helped tremendously. I personally had a bad experience just yesterday with a different business that I was doing business with, and I called them, I had an issue, and you could just see the difference of how I would have handled the situation if I was on their end, and they were just like throwing the blame and not de-escalating the situation and not really wanting to be there as a problem solver. They're just like, just trying to throw blame and not take care of it well. So, I find that I'm pretty good at problem solving with customer issues.
Okay. So you mentioned, I think it's interesting, it seems like people that grew up where their parents are entrepreneurs, oftentimes that's kind of the route they want to go. They want to go start their own thing. Do you feel like when was the first point in your life that you realized that you might have a little bit of entrepreneurship spirit and that might be a direction that you might want to go? Was that later in college, or did you ever have that kind of spark growing up some, and then just weren't sure what direction you wanted to go, or where did that come from?
I just don't think I ever wanted to work for anyone. Like
Yeah.
from a young age, I probably realized like I don't like working for other people, and I just didn't see it as like the best opportunity. I like to kind of have control of the direction I take in life.
Yeah, not somebody else setting your schedule. And
Exactly. Yeah.
setting your salary and all of that kind of.
Yep.
Yeah, in some ways can limit your potential earnings and things like that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you get to the point you're doing sales and you start looking for other opportunities. Like you knew sales wasn't going to be a long-term thing for you. It was saving up some money, waiting for the right opportunity. So how did you go about looking for opportunities and kind of evaluating those opportunities and finding like what opportunities are going to be worth pursuing?
Yeah. So I'm not, gonna take full responsibility and ownership of the opportunity that came across, because some of it was a little bit of the opportunity came to me. And so I finished a summer in sales. My brother and business partner, he has multiple other businesses, had a really good year. It was 2020 during COVID. He had, COVID was actually good for his business. Like, it was kind of like either it was bad or it was good for you. And for him, it was good for him. And he called me on my way home from sales, and he's like, I saw that the mall in Bryan Head is for sale, and would you want to partner with me, and we'll invest in it, and you'll be there day to day to run it, and I'll just kind of be in the back seat. And we saw that opportunity. The immediate need was to buy the mall, buy the general store, and build an ice rink. So the general store is an existing business, so we just went in there, revamped it, and built an ice rink next door immediately. And so I just took it as an opportunity to run with it, and it was just okay. I threw all my eggs in one basket.
Okay, so your brother had entrepreneur experience. He had started other businesses, been successful there. He knew you had the work ethic, the sales experience. You had some retail experience, so he knew you had some of the skills and experience that it would take to get it up and going. So he kind of took the lead, like he found the opportunity, kind of took the lead in evaluating it a little bit to see if it looked like a good opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, we evaluated it together after looking at it, but he found the initial opportunity, and then we ran with it.
Okay, so a lot's changed now. I think most people, we put on the little flyer that are you still 30? You're 30 years old now?
I'm 31.
31 now? Okay. So, and you own 7 businesses. Most of them, or all of them, have to do with the mall and businesses that are in the mall now. So it was 2020 that you bought it? Right?
December 2020.
So walk us through what it looked like back then, because obviously it's a lot different now. You've added things, built things, renovated. So what did it look like in 2020, and what were some opportunities you started to see right off the bat?
So the immediate, good sign of wanting to buy the business is that we knew the previous ownership. We knew they were of retirement age, so the business had kind of, it was successful, but we knew that it wasn't with the times. So immediately we went in, remodeled the general store, and built the ice rink. By building the ice rink, we drove more traffic to the building, which I have tenants in the building as well. So I was able to raise the value of potential rent in the building. So we were able to elevate the rent roll, so draw more revenue into the property itself. Use those elevated rents to immediately remodel the building. Well, quick remodels, because when we had bought the mall, it had never been repainted or never new siding. Basically was just kind of deteriorating. So by elevating the rent roll and reconvening with the HOA, because there are parts of the building upstairs, there's condos that are owned by individual owners, so there's still kind of an HOA, and we were able to throw money into renovations, quick renovations, and then it's been the goal ever since buying the building to bring it up to times, because if you ever looked at the mall before, it wasn't, it didn't look like a mall. Like, it's called the mall. It's always been called the mall in Bryan Head, but I grew up snowboarding there, and I never knew that there was a pizza place right there. Like, my whole life, I never knew there was a pizza place right there. So the goal was, like, how do we make this look like a commercial business, not just like a condo complex? And so it took 4 years until this last summer to finally do what we had always planned, a 9,000 square foot addition. We opened a new Thai restaurant, a new ski shop, a spa, built a penthouse above it, and soon to put in a laundromat. So
it really is like a whole mall now with all these different offerings. And
yeah, it's more walkable, shoppable. Like, we remodeled the entire front, almost completely eliminated snow removal on the property. We probably spent on average $15,000 to $20,000 a year in snow removal operations just every winter, and we've gotten that down to like $2,000 just per winter. So by not the operation, it's nice to have the cost down, but it's even more nice for the customer to be able to walk and experience the mall and not have to feel like they just have to run in and grab their pizza and run to their car, or run into the general store and grab their groceries and run out. Like, they come to the mall and they actually experience the mall. They can walk and shop.
So it makes it a better experience for them. You retain them longer, which then
Correct.
usually results in them visiting multiple stores there. So it helps you, helps your tenants, everybody
100%,
in the building
yeah.
and in the area. That's great. So purchasing it at the end of 2020, were you still kind of nervous about all the COVID stuff, or because you had already seen, they'd kind of gotten through the worst of it, and we saw that people were still traveling to southern Utah, places like Bryan Head that were still open? Was it not as scary at that point with all the COVID complications?
Yeah, no, it was good for Bryan Head. COVID was good for the Utah ski industry because California shut down, other states were shut down, and so people were flocking to Bryan Head and discovering Bryan Head for the first time, because even though Bryan Head has always been primarily Vegas and California visitors, it just boosted that even heavier, because people that had always gone to Mammoth, couldn't go to Mammoth, and they would come and see us, and they're, wow, there's no lift lines, and it's a different experience. So
yeah. So being there in Bryan Head, obviously you're very dependent on tourism, which comes with pros and cons. Can you speak to some of those pros and cons, some of the challenges that presents, and how you navigate those challenges?
The biggest challenge, being that it's a tourist place, is the seasonality, trying to manage the ups and downs, where just this winter break for 2 weeks I probably could have used 45 employees, but at the end of those 2 weeks I only need 15.
Yeah.
So there's that, employment issues, and then there's just the slow seasons with sales. There's always the spring and fall that are pretty dead, and so you just have to be aware of that and plan financially not to overload yourself during those slow months. But aside from that, it's summer specifically that we're still trying to solve. Like, summer is great. A lot of people are up there. for visiting their cabins, fishing, just cool weather. It's a mountain town, but it's only 3 months long. So how do you invest into either summer business or events and make it worthwhile when you only have 3 months to capture summer business?
Right.
So it's kind of do you just let it ride and just let those that come, or do you put more into it and try and create something bigger out of it?
Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned the challenge of staffing needs. You mentioned the issue of how do you have the right number of staff when needs can fluctuate so much. What about like a lot of these businesses that we help here are just starting their business, some of them just needing to hire their first employees. How do you know, like, when do I need to add another position versus divvy it out against my existing employees? And how do you kind of build the confidence to know, like, okay, yeah, we're ready to bring somebody else on and take them on?
I think that you have to evaluate yourself and the employees that you have and their strengths. And if you're spending too much time doing something that you could hire out instead and then use your skills in a different aspect of the business, then I think it's time. I mean, obviously financials and sales and other aspects, apply, but if you're spinning your wheels trying to do a job that you're not really good at, but you're only doing because you have no one else to do it, but really your skills would be better in a different part of your own business, then that's a good sign. Or vice versa, it could be an employee. You could have an employee doing a job that you hired them for, and really they have a better set of skill sets elsewhere, then put that employee where they thrive and find someone to do those duties.
Yeah. So does it kind of feel like a constant juggling of all, especially where it's with the seasonal, you can't just have your staff, you're always have turnover with that and seasonal employees that may come back every winter, but does it just feel like a constant juggling act there?
Yeah, I mean, it's always stressful. October, November, I start putting ads out, hey, we're hiring, and you get no responses and you're like all nervous, and then all of a sudden people just start knocking on your door like almost immediately. One of the reasons I like being an entrepreneur, and a motto that I share with my business partner and brother, is I like offering opportunities for people, and not just like, okay, if I'm going to hire a cashier, I'm just going to, oh, great, I gave someone a job. No, I pay that cashier more than any other cashier in Bryan Head, right? And I take pride in that. And so I think because I have that mentality and I'm creating those opportunities, I'm not just trying to find the cheapest employees possible. We always find our employees. It's stressful, but they always come. Yeah.
And I know a few of your employees, and it seems like you try and give them growth opportunities too. If they're willing to work hard and take on more responsibility, then you allow them to kind of grow with the business and take more on. Is that something that you're strategic about from the very beginning? Like in those interviews, yeah, it's an entry-level position as a cashier, but you're looking to hire somebody that doesn't just want to stay a cashier, that they're eager to grow and they have that work ethic and drive. Is that kind of your business model, or like your strategy in hiring people?
Well, I mean, that was kind of a learning curve because, like I said, we've had these plans to do all of these new things that we've finally accomplished from the beginning, and not necessarily in the interview, but just in early days of an employee, there was times in the beginning that I was like, hey, we're doing all these good things, we have all this growth opportunity, and then it took longer than I thought. And so I think some employees had probably gotten overly excited or expected opportunities to come, and they weren't coming as fast. And so I lost a few employees because of that. But since I've realized hire with lower expectations, and then once you see an employee and their potential, then maybe target them specifically, talk to them individually, and give them those opportunities for growth. But to just completely say to all of your employees all the time, like, there's room for growth, but you can't guarantee that, especially when you can't forecast the future. So
Right. So you almost want to identify that potential in them, but not necessarily tell them, like, yes, this is the path I see for you.
exactly, not immediately
Get their hopes up and lead them on to something that might not come to fruition.
Yeah, and you can strategically, but just not just this broad, like, hire everyone and tell everyone that there's room for growth.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Realistically, they're not all going to be able to become managers for you
Yeah.
and work their way up quickly. I like that. So you mentioned a couple other things I want to highlight. So one, you mentioned from the beginning you started this business with your brother. I think something that everybody hears often is don't go into business with family, and it's like a hard line, no exceptions, just don't go into business with family. Can you speak to your experience a little bit about that? It seems like, I mean, I'm sure it comes with challenges too, but maybe speak to some of the challenges, but also the successes and the advantages that you've had by going in with your brother.
There's always has to be a clear line of decision making. So someone always has to have at least 51% ownership and 49. If there's not a direct, like, person in charge, then that's when there's issues. Now with me and my brother, he's 6 years older than me and 10 years into business longer than me. That was pretty obvious, that decision. And so for our relationship, there's never been an issue where we butt heads, because ultimately if we have a difference of opinions, then I'm going to respect his and understand that it comes with more experience than mine. So at the same time, he is basically a silent partner and isn't physically here, physically on site, and so he almost always respects my first instincts because I'm there and I'm doing things. So it's mutual respect, and I think the age difference and the respect level is probably just more uncommon than other family-owned businesses with each other. A lot of people are prideful and are like, no, I want to be equal partners. Like, I want to be equal. That doesn't matter to me. 1% of ownership isn't gonna change my financial stability. So that doesn't matter. So set your ego aside, and someone has to be a clear leader and responsible and decision maker. So that's pretty easy for us.
Yeah, I really like that you talked about the mutual respect too, and that, like, you respect him and all the experience he has, the advice and the expertise that he can bring to the table there, but also he recognizes your value of being there day to day and involved in the everyday problems that come up, so allowing you to take the initiative. So it sounds like you didn't specifically say this one, but kind of having clearly defined roles is probably an important aspect too, and being willing to not just like, well, that's your role, not mine, and but work together through all those challenges.
Yeah, I would say probably why it works the most is he's an investor, and that's pretty much the extent of it. And then, there with big decisions. So I don't think I could work with any member of my family other than my wife, because we work together day to day. But any member of my family, just business partners and in the same office every day, because I think that's where it gets complicated. So I think it's pretty tricky. I wouldn't just recommend going into business with family, because I can't think of a single member of my family other than my brother that I would go into business with. So I can see why that is commonly stated. So
if somebody here were to come up and say, hey, I have this business opportunity, but it's with my brother or my father or my sibling, whoever it is, a family member, and everybody has said, don't go into business with my family. Like, would that be your answer? Is just kind of, it depends, and you got to really look at the situation and talk through all of those things before you make that decision?
Yeah, I think it always depends. Yeah, I wouldn't just say immediately no, but I wouldn't immediately say yes. I think you have to evaluate the relationship and the business structure both equally. They're both equally important. How stable is your relationship, and how well structured is the business plan to where that you're not butting heads.
Yeah. So that you mentioned too, so your brother's kind of the financial partner, the investor. I think a lot of times people, I get asked this question a lot, is how do I get the funding to start? Like, so when you first found the opportunity, I don't know if, and it helps that too, part of it was an existing business that you're buying, so you are able to use that to help convince a bank to give you funding. But what would your recommendation be to people like looking to get funding to start a business or buy a business? What was kind of your experience with that, and how you would recommend other people go about that?
Buying a business is easier than starting a business. I've done both now. We came in, bought the existing mall and general store, and it thrives. And whereas we started the ice rink from the ground up, we've now started a ski shop and a restaurant and a spa. It is much harder to go through the startup process than it is to buy an existing business. So if you could, if you either have the experience yourself or you can find the experience to go in and help evaluate a business and buy someone out, or get in ground level with someone that's close to retirement and work for sweat equity to work your way into ownership, that's what I recommend over just I'm going to create a gadget and I'm going to try and take it to the market and make it work. But it doesn't mean that it's not worth it to go that startup route. I just think it's easier to buy a business if you can. Funding wise, there's millions of opportunities out there for funding. Networking, there's Chamber of Commerce's in every single city and state and town across the U.S. So becoming members of Chamber of Commerce, looking at what your local government, schools, like this program here, the Innovation Center, and for example, we've, over the last 4 or 5 years now that we've owned all of this, we've probably received $50,000 in grant money, and that just takes looking it up and applying for it. So it's not impossible to find funding and do it yourself and start from the ground up, but I do think it's easier to buy a business if you can.
Yeah, that's great. So obviously you have a wide range of industries of the businesses that you're involved in now. I think another thing that I often hear is like, just never go into the restaurant businesses or to a restaurant business, because restaurants have a lot of unique challenges that can be really hard to overcome. What's been your experience? That it's still pretty new now with your restaurant there, but you've had tenants as owning restaurants there. So what's your experience and advice there with restaurant businesses?
I think the reason why restaurants are hard is the demand. It's taxing on your body. It's time away from the family. When you have to think, when other people are hungry, that's when you're feeding them. You're not eating if you're hungry, they're probably hungry, so you have to be feeding them, not eating yourself. It's like lunchtime, when you're hungry, you're cooking lunch. Dinner time, when you're hungry, you're cooking dinner. So that's difficult, and it's challenging to satisfy people. Like, satisfying people is one of the hardest things you can imagine, and especially in food. And it's funny, but there's people out there that don't want to see you succeed. Our restaurant has, we opened December 11th, so I don't know how many weeks that is, but in that short amount of time, we have 200 reviews that are all 5 stars, but there's always going to be a couple of people that are going to give you a 1 star, or there's going to be someone that gives you a 3 star and says, food was great, 3 stars, and you're like, why, right? And so I think that most people get defeated in the restaurant industry because they're not acutely aware of the need to satisfy people and consistently and constantly satisfy people. So no matter how many bad reviews you get or how hard it is, you have to keep the food quality up. You have to keep the customer service up. You have to be open to hours that are inconvenient, and you have to be there for the customer. As a business owner, and especially as a service provided business owner, your boss is your customers. Like, you don't just open 9 to 5 because that's convenient for your work life and family life. It's okay. We're the only restaurant in Bryan Head, for example, that's open till 9:30. You know, everyone else closes 8, 9 o'clock on the weekends. But for us, California and Vegas tourists are rolling in on a Friday night. So our 8 o'clock is their 7 o'clock. Like, if you're from Vegas or you've been to Vegas, that place doesn't sleep. If you go to Vegas at 7 o'clock and you couldn't find food, it would be like World War II. Like, people would be like, what the heck? So understanding that and understanding our customer, we know, hey, we have to be open. Like, it's just non-negotiable. Whether we're making money during those hours or not, we're still going to be open.
Yeah, that's when you mention it's hard to satisfy people. I feel like it's that way no matter what with anything, but especially the food industry. I mean, we're all different. We all have different taste buds. So to make meals that, you know, one person loves it and somebody else says this is terrible, and it's whole new set of challenges. So I'm curious. So I was able to go up and have lunch up there a couple weeks ago with Kade, and so great restaurant. First chair Thai and ramen. Mm-hmm. So worth the drive up there. Beautiful drive up there to go try it out too if you haven't been up there yet. But you've also just recently done a lot of renovations to the building. Part of it opening these new businesses. You mentioned like you put the garage doors. I don't know if that's the way to what they're called, but helps prevent the snow from getting in there. So you put a lot of time and work into it. So obviously these last few months have been more demanding, or probably even more than months, but what does a typical day-to-day look like for you? Because you've got the ski shop, you've got a restaurant, you have the general store, you have a spa, you're opening up a laundromat there now. So all these different industries, are you kind of like bouncing between all of them all day, every day, or what does your day-to-day look like up there?
Yeah, it's constant. I have probably had 1 day off in the last 6 months, which, it's hard to balance, you know, work life and family balance. But the day-to-day is literally, you know, sometimes as early as 7, 8 in the morning to 2 in the morning, just building the ice rink, or because we have to rebuild it every year, or to be able to afford the addition, I did all the flooring, the paint, some of the trim, all of these things I had to do myself, or, you know, do myself with one other person kind of a thing. And it was grueling, but overall the day-to-day is I'm strategically in each business when I need to be. You know, ski shop is busy in the morning when we're putting out rentals, so I'm there early in the morning, and then usually there's a big rush in the general store at noon, so I'm, you know, helping out in the store. There's a big rush for lunch at the restaurant, so I'm helping out there. Like I mentioned before, because of my sales, one of my biggest strengths is my customer service and being there with the customer. And so a lot of the times, you know, for example, I hire an accountant. I don't do my own accounting because that would be a waste of my time. it's more important for me to be in front of a customer. Like, me being in front of the customer is going to benefit the business more so than anything else. So, I've physically done a lot of the labor, but day to day I'm there with the customers, solving problems and, giving them the attention they need in every one of the businesses.
Yeah. Another point that you bring up that I just want to reiterate, I think you mentioned you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, or not always, but you kind of had that drive. You've never wanted to have a boss, somebody else that you're reporting to and run your own thing. I think a lot of times that's I'm just thinking when I was at SU, the entrepreneurship speaker series class, where you hear from all these successful business owners and you see their success and they're their own boss, and you just think wow, they get as much vacation as they want because you set your own schedule. But that oftentimes you go through several years that look like what you've gone through. You've had one day off in the last 6 months, and you get to set your own schedule, but that was 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. some days, and that's that you're not necessarily getting scheduled oh man, I got scheduled to work on Saturday from 9 to 5, but it's we got to get this done. We got to, we can't open the business till we get these renovations done. So I think it's just an important, entrepreneurship is not for people that just want to kick back. It's hard work to get businesses up and running, or even buying existing businesses to get them where they need to be. It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, being a business owner is, if you do not understand that the customer or your clients are your boss, and you don't respect that, just like in any other job, if you don't respect your boss, you will lose your job. If you're not there for your customer, then there's no point in being a business owner. So yes, from a young age, I didn't want to work for someone, but it wasn't with the mindset of, that's because I want to just do whatever I want. I just want to have this lax life. It's just more challenging, and I want to be able to do things the way the way I want to do them. So that's more the reason for not wanting to work for someone, not necessarily because I want to just have this very cushiony 9 to 5 life and control my hours. I understand very well that you have to satisfy the customer.
Yeah, that's great advice. So we already kind of talked about some of the challenges that being a tourism, really the whole town of Bryan Head is tourism dependent, but especially those businesses there, having the mall. What does it look like this year with hardly any snow? There's less visitors, less people going out snowboarding and skiing. How has that affected you and your businesses? And are there things that you're doing to try and navigate that and overcome that challenge?
No, it's definitely challenging. With 4 of the businesses are new this winter. Some are definitely pulling their weight more than others, a lot more than others, and a lot of that is due to snow. And so we have to, limit our staffing and watch our hours, which is something new because I've never done that. I've always had ample amount of hours. I've had overtime hours for people, so it's a little interesting. I don't like to kind of limit people's hours because I know that people need to make a living. So that's challenging. Limiting their hours. We're also improving our visibility. So one thing that we did is we spent over $100,000 on signage this year, on building a new street sign that's 30 feet tall, and new signage on the exterior of the building, and then signage within the building, and being able to strategically put posters places and have our TVs running. A TV in the general store is playing a video of the ski shop and vice versa, and that's helped tremendously. And we've also just been trying to promote spending. It's kind of a rough economy, the snow's bad, and so we understand that people maybe are a little bit more tight in their pockets. And so we started a program that we call Mall Cash, because 5 of the businesses, brick and mortar businesses that are in the mall that we own and operate, we link together with what's called Mall Cash. So every time a customer spends $50, we give them a $5 punch card back and say, this is Mall Cash. You can use it at any of these 5 businesses. And so by putting money into the customer's pocket, it gets them into that mode of wanting to spend. And I think that's helpful, and especially in the economy when people are trying to kind of hold tight their wallets right now, giving them cash that they feel like they have to spend. And we put an expiration date on it. We put it for 7 days. You have 7 days to spend this $5, or if they spend $300, they get $30 back. So when you give that to them, they immediately start thinking, oh, I need to spend this.
Because then they can spend it as cash, right? It's not like
Exactly.
$30, but it has to be at least a $50.
No,
they could go buy a $30 item and get it
or
free.
they can just buy a $5 item and they get a free candy bar.
Yeah.
Fine, that's okay, because more times than not, they're spending above that $5,
Right.
and they're buying more. So for example, there's an instance that someone bought $150 groceries in the general store, went down, used that $15 back that they got to buy ski rentals for their whole family, which was like $350. So they had $35 back in that. And then before they walked out the store, the dad turned around and was like, actually, I want a new ski jacket. Came, used that $35 to buy a $350 jacket. So.
And then he gets more.
And then he got more.
Back
And then he got more. And it's just like, here's more cash. Spend it. It. And so, you got to promote. You have to, if the economy and the spending environment isn't there, you got to create it.
Yeah. So do you spend a lot of time doing like some research on, like, how am I going to make sure this $100,000 that I'm investing in signage is going to have a return on investment? Or, we're going to open up a spa here. How can we make sure that is a positive thing that's going to pull its weight up here with these businesses? Do you do a lot of research, or is it like you've lived up there for 6 years now?
You can do as much as research as you can, but and you need to research. You can't just do whatever you want. But most of the businesses that we started were because of time spent and realizing needs. We started a spa because I've personally seen specifically women that are up there on ski vacation, and the grandma is not there to ski, and they would just walk in circles around the general store because there's nowhere to shop and nothing to do, and they would, all there is in the general store is souvenirs and groceries, so they might buy a souvenir, but like there's not a blouse for them, there's not an activity for them, and shopping is an activity for women. So we have in the spa we offer our services, but we also have retail items, and so everything's kind of thought out and observed, and that's how we've decided on what to start and what not to start. And then we have also try to keep our morals as well, because at any time I could open a bar and it would do amazing in Brian Head, but I don't want to open a bar. So It's like maybe a bar is more needed than a spa, but I'm gonna put my eggs in the spa because it is where my morals stand a little bit easier.
Yeah, I know, and some of them too, like there's a very obvious need, so I think it's cool that you saw the opportunity, you're taking advantage of it. I didn't know until I was up there a couple weeks ago that there's no laundromat up there, so there's, I don't know how many different cleaning companies that go up there and clean all the Airbnbs, and they're changing the sheets and stuff, and they had to drive all the way back down the mountain to Parowan to go and wash all the linens and everything and bring them back up every time. So that'll be your next step, right, is opening up the laundromat.
Yep. Yeah, it's a big need. The laundromat in Parowan is ran down and heavily used by Bryan had cleaners, and so it would probably be a benefit to the town of Parowan and to the town of Bryan Head, because the Parowan laundromat would get some relief, and actual, regular citizens of Parowan would get to use it a little bit better and not have it broken all the time. So,
yeah, that's great. Well, we've got a few more minutes left, so I got one more question for you, and then we're going to open it up if anybody in the audience has some questions for you. So with the room being full of a bunch of entrepreneurs across a lot of different industries, you now have experience in a lot of different industries and the businesses that you're running. What would you say is like a key piece of advice that's helped you find success? Maybe some of the keys to your success, or a key piece of advice that can be applied across many different industries.
You just have to do what is necessary. I think I've had to work long hours these few months, and it wasn't my first choice to open a restaurant, but it was necessary. And so I think as a business owner, if you're not, you got to be willing to do what's necessary.
Probably not your first choice to be the one putting in flooring and painting and
Correct.
Doing all that either, but yeah, you kind of have to wear a lot of different hats and do a lot of the work yourself when you're getting started. So yeah, I like that. I think work ethic too, a big part of that, just being willing to be the one scrubbing toilets if that's what's necessary, I like that, whatever's necessary. So okay, awesome. Well, we've got about 10 minutes left with Kade, so we'll open it up if anybody in here wants to. I try and ask questions that I think people in the audience would want to know, but I figure I'll leave time to make sure any questions you have get asked.
How you got multiple businesses, like, can you do a quick rundown of like the legal structure of them? Like, do you have like a real estate holding company, and then you have your other businesses that are paying rent to that, or like, how does that all work out? And are you and your brother, are you 5149 partners in all of them, or how?
Yeah. 5149 all of them, but yeah, we have the real estate holding company. So the mall itself is owned by an LLC, and then each business, when in this scenario, we can split them into different LLCs when we want to, but really there's only two other LLCs. There's the ice skating rink that is also combined with the ski shop, and then the other businesses, spa, general store, and the restaurant are under a different LLC.
So
and then
you can have I guess you can flex employees.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that was kind of one of the reasons, is if I split them all up, then payroll would be a little bit more complicated. So I can flex employees everywhere, and that's pretty much what we're probably going to do now as the season's slower. Maybe I have less staff, so I might have walkie-talkies just like a department store and say, hey, help on aisle 9, and I need someone to come over. So yeah.
As a follow-up to that, do you have different DBAs then, so that you still have
every one of them is under their own DBA.
Okay.
Yes.
Which, if anybody doesn't know, doing business as, so it can be under the same LLC but have a different business name essentially.
Yeah. So to legally be able to put a different name on the door and on a website, and we have to have different DBAs. So they're still their own businesses. Financially, we still count the profits and losses separately, but there's 3 LLCs.
If someone bought a struggling property tomorrow, what would you tell them to focus on in the next 90 days?
What do you mean struggling?
Struggling.
Deteriorating or struggling financially?
Not deteriorating, financially.
Unless you have a plan as to not have it struggle financially immediately, I wouldn't buy a struggling financially property. The property that we bought was financially, healthy. We just made it healthier to then make it physically healthier. But I wouldn't necessarily just oh, there's this commercial building or there's this house that doesn't make rent. If you don't have an immediate plan to change that around, then I just wouldn't buy it.
And when you say immediate plan, like, so if you see a struggling business, but then you're able to identify, well, they're struggling because of X, Y, Z, and I have the knowledge and expertise to go in and fix that and turn it around. Is that kind of what you mean? Like,
You're talking about he's talking about a property. So like, if there's a strip mall here in Cedar City that is 50% occupied and losing its mortgage because they can't make their mortgage out of their rent roll, unless you have a business yourself that you're going to bring in and fill out some of that space, or you already know someone that's looking to rent a space like that, so you're going to buy it and immediately bring them in. Yeah, I wouldn't buy it. If you just think that, there's this strip mall, even if it's 100% occupied, but it's struggling, and there's say it's a strip mall with 5 tenants in it, and each one of those tenants are struggling. If you think that you are the solution to their businesses being successful, you're wrong. Like, I can't go fix my tenant's business and then just expect them to be paying me a healthy amount of rent. They won't listen to you. Like, my tenants don't listen to you. So that's a fact. Now in our case, we went in, we built an ice rink, so we gave them customers because we brought more people to the building. And so we had a direct plan.
So is this like the long-term thing for you? Say you're 30 right now. What do you see yourself doing this till you're 70, or do you have like a big dream for what you're doing in addition to this, or what are your hopes and dreams for like the mall, or I guess your hopes and dreams?
Well, everything's for sale, so at the right price, anything could change. But we still own another half an acre land, and we have a development agreement with the town, and basically we're allotted to build another 50,000 square feet on the property that we own, and our perspective of what Brian Head needs is another hotel and an event center, and maybe both. So that would be a future goal, is to, if it is long term, that would be to build more. But I'm not necessarily married to Brian Head the rest of my life, but I could be. I'll do what's necessary.
Said another hotel. Why? What is the premise behind needing more lodging up there?
Well, there's a lot of lodging. Like, there's a lot of Airbnbs and condos, and I own an Airbnb, and that makes sense to a point, but condos and Airbnbs don't bring amenities to the town. A hotel brings in a new restaurant, it brings in an event center, it brings in another pool or another spa or another facility, and it satisfies customers. Airbnbs give you a bed, but you have to cook your own meals, and it's just not a vacation. It's not the same level of vacation as what a hotel provides. And the two hotels that are there are older. They're getting remodeled, and they're continuing to improve. That's what every hotel does. They struggle with getting outdated and remodeling. But there's no ski in, ski out hotel in Brian Head either. And our location would be a ski in, ski out hotel. So yeah, there's things like that we see are the need.
I'm glad that you brought a restaurant, another eatery,
Uh-huh.
because that's definitely needed. But what about like nighttime life there?
Yeah, like I said, part of that.
Someplace, like you said, you didn't want to open a bar, but someplace that had like live entertainment on the weekend nights or something. Because like you get up there and it's like, okay, everything's closed down. Now what do I do?
And that's why we built an ice rink. It's the only thing open after 5 o'clock to do. That was, the main reason we built an ice rink. But it is more family oriented when you look at the data, and the number one tourist to Iron County is 55 and older retired couples. And so, there are maybe an older crowd that want, to go and get a drink or go and listen to some live music, and that's where we would do it in the event center space, but I'm not going to open a bar.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay, any final questions? Yeah, Reed?
I got a question. So is there anything that you've had that was kind of like, hey, this was our plan, and then we have to pivot and turn in a different direction?
Yeah, absolutely. We host the Bryant Head Art Festival every year. It's a big 4th of July event, and it does really well. And, we were like, okay, well then let's do more summer events. And we bought a $30,000 tent, a huge 80 by 100 event tent, massive tent, and a snowstorm destroyed it. So, those things happen. And right after that event, was kind of a fail. It was when we finally got all of our approvals on doing this addition. And so it was like, okay, events are not the focus, because now we're ready to run with everything else. And there's little things like we wanted to rent e-bikes one year where, it's just kind of cruisers just to get around town and have fun on, not mountain bike e-bikes. And, you look at all the numbers until you get the insurance cost, and it was $12,000 for 3 months to insure 10 e-bikes. And it's like, you're not going to make that money back. So there's little things like that. You think, oh, it's a great idea, but once you do it, it doesn't turn out. So.
Okay, I've got time for one more question.
What was the deal structure on the business acquisition originally? Like, was it seller financed, or like, how much did you come out of pocket?
No, everything was out of pocket. Well, other than the real estate was purchased with a loan through a bank, but to purchase the existing store, its inventory, and the business itself, that was 100% cash. And then there was, because of COVID and tricky times with commercial lending, we had to come out of pocket 50% cash on the building, so we only got a loan on 50% of the cost of the building and the land that the ice rink is built on. And then that's what we use to, that 50% equity put in plus whatever we built over the last 4 years is what we use to finance the new 9,000 square feet. And so it was like very minimal cash that we had to put in to finish the 9,000 square feet addition that we did. So that's a good question.
Okay, well, any other final things that you haven't shared yet with this group that you wanted to share today?
No?
That's everything. Okay, awesome. Let's give a round of applause to Kade.